Hello, everyone. Welcome to our presentation. Today, we are doing a workshop on how counselors can support immigrant students and their families. My name is Jillian Flagler.
My name is Avery Miller.
And my name is Lakeisha Rigg.
All right, and we are your trainers here from the Florida Atlantic University. All right, and we'll begin the presentation.
I want to start off our presentation by doing a little activity. It's called Walking Their Shoes, the reflection activity. Uh, our student is Anya. She's a bright-eyed 16-year-old from Ukraine, arriving in the US with her family, seeking refuge from the war. She was a top student back home, but here the language barrier felt like a wall. In her English class, she struggled to understand the assignments. Her face flushed with shame whenever she was called upon. She missed her friends, her familiar routines, and the comfort of her native tongue. Her parents worried about her and urged her to focus on academics, but Anya felt lost. Her confidence dwindled with each passing day. Her only solace was a kind teacher who noticed her struggle and offered extra help. Slowly chipping away at the wall of language and fear, opening a path towards a new beginning. Now we will ask attendees to silently reflect on what it would be like to be in the student's position for a few minutes. Uh, what might they feel? What might they need from a counselor or school system? After reflection, invite participants to share their thoughts with a partner or in small groups. It is encouraging them to focus on emotions, fears, and needs that might not be immediately obvious. In the second part, we will reflect on what it would be like to be in the student's position for a few minutes. Like I've just explained, what might they feel, and what might they need from a counselor. And uh, just take 5 minutes to do this exercise and then converse with your peers about the many different things you come up with. After those 5 minutes are done, we can resume the webinar. Remember to pause it right here.
Next slide.
All right, thank you, Avery. So we wanted to make sure that we took some time to walk you through our agenda, what you'll be learning today. You have just heard from Avery regarding the walk in the shoes activities. In a moment, we're going to take you through a pre-workshop evaluation, going over the purpose of today's workshop with you. We will also review the goals and objectives of today's workshop. We'll give you a full introduction, take you through the theory and framework. Also, we're going to go over systemic barriers faced by students and their families. We're going to go over current immigration policy challenges, family engagement and community collaboration, ethical considerations. We're also going to touch on resources for continued advocacy and professional development. We're going to have another activity, the Immigrant Students Toolkit activity. We're going to make sure we discuss your takeaways and have a post-workshop evaluation for you. All right, so as mentioned, we're going to do a pre-workshop evaluation. We want to see what you already know about our topic at hand today. So if you would just take a moment using your devices, you can utilize your phone and just go to the link that is provided in this slide and go ahead and take a few moments to take this evaluation to see what you know. Okay, so as mentioned, we're going to go over the purpose of today's workshop. So several purpose is we're going to equip counselors with knowledge and strategies to support immigrant students and their families. We are also going to make sure we address the impact of current immigration policies under the current administration on students' well-being. We are also going to foster culturally responsive counseling practices to ensure inclusivity and equity. Also, we will provide tools to navigate legal, social, and emotional challenges faced by immigrant students. We will help to strengthen and connect families to essential community resources, and we will promote ethical and advocacy-driven approaches to counseling aligned with AMH, CHA, and ACA standards.
All right, thank you, Lakeisha. Thank you, Avery. All right, we wanted to open up this workshop with the activity that we started with, so that way we could immerse you guys in the experience of an example of an immigrant student, right? So by the end of this workshop, we want to make sure that counselors are able to understand the unique challenges and systemic barriers faced by immigrant students and their families, learn strategies for fostering an inclusive school environment that supports academic, social, and emotional well-being, identify culturally responsive counseling techniques and best practices to address immigrant students' concerns, gain knowledge of relevant AMCHA, which is the American Mental Health Counselors Association, and ACA, American Counseling Association, Code of Ethics and Competencies for Working with Immigrant Populations. We want to make sure that you're able to engage in experiential activities that promote empathy and practical application of learned strategies, as well as evaluating the effectiveness of our training and identifying next steps for continued professional development. Next slide, please. All right. So across the world, we hear tragic news of civil and political unrest in places like Ukraine, South Africa, Liberia, Nigeria, Sudan, Syria, Israel, Palestine, Mexico, Haiti, Central and South America, and the list goes on. Despite the social and political issues here in the US, things are relatively safer here than in other countries where the military, law enforcement, renowned gangs, and cartels raid people's homes and communities, committing violent crimes without judicial accountability, and where there is no safe place to hide. Now, there are always exceptions, but generally speaking, people can say what they want and go where they please here in the United States. People from all over the world flee their countries to cross American borders, seeking safety and a peace of mind. But with such harrowing pursuits comes a flood of unintended traumas and emotional and mental unwellness, even after arrival in the United States, which is where we as counselors come in. During this workshop, we will explore how counselors can provide support to immigrant students and their families, specifically those who are refugees and asylum seekers. Contrary to popular belief and misinformed media publications, most immigrants are in America legally, right? As of 2022, about 77% of immigrants are in the country legally. About 49% were naturalized as US citizens, 24% were lawful permanent residents, 4% were temporary residents, and 23% were unauthorized immigrants. All right, so translating that into numbers, over 2 million people attempted to enter the US in 2022, raising the number of immigrants to a record high of 46 million. Over 1 million individuals became authorized permanent residents, and most new permanent US residents originate from 20 different countries and 5 continents, with the largest numbers of people coming from Mexico. Next slide, please. All right, so on average, US immigrants have lower levels of education than the American-born population. And as of 2022, immigrants ages 25 and older were about 3 times as likely, being about 25%, as US-born people to not finish high school, which is about 7%. At the same time, immigrants were about as likely, which is about 35%, to have earned a bachelor's degree or a higher degree, maybe 36%, as US-born people. Next slide, please. All right, in 2022, there was a study that found that immigrant children and their families had migration-related trauma, and they faced major barriers to mental health care due to stigma, distrust of systems, and cultural and language differences. Children of immigrants are often supporting their families in unexpected ways, from caring for younger siblings to translating for their parents. They adjusting to life between cultures, right? American culture versus their own is a common challenge for immigrant students, often intensified by strong family influences, mixed immigration statuses within their family, and high expectations for success. All right. And recent immigration policies have had major effects on refugees and those seeking asylum. For example, in the past 10 years, about 75,000 refugees were admitted into the US each of those 10 years. In 2018, only about 22,491 refugees were admitted, which is the lowest admission in over 40 years. In April 2018, a family separation policy was enacted that called for every illegal entry case across the border to be prosecuted. And as a result, children who weren't allowed to be prosecuted were separated from their parents. Between October 2017 and April 2018, about 700 families were separated. Very tragic. In June 2018, an executive order was signed to end family separations at the border. All right, so there is some progress being made in that area, but there's still work to do. Next slide, please. All right, the effects of these incidents have lasting and devastating impact. There were 26 studies carried out across 15 countries, provided results of mental health diagnoses for 5,143 adult refugees and asylum seekers. The prevalence of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, was 31.46%. Depression results came in at 31.5%. Anxiety disorders in that number were about 11%. And psychosis, which is very serious, was about 1.51%. All right. The results of these studies illuminate the need for ongoing long-term mental health care beyond the initial period of resettlement here in the United States. Next slide, please. All right, thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Jillian, for providing that introduction for our participants. So in this presentation, we are going to focus on the multicultural and social justice counseling competencies, MSJCC, to understand the immigrant student population and their challenges. The MSJCC is a framework designed to provide guidance to counselors in most effectively serving diverse populations through integrating multicultural awareness with social justice principles. So just a little bit more about this particular theory. It was developed by Manavong J. Ratz and colleagues in 2016. It builds upon earlier models, particularly some of you may know the multicultural counseling competencies, which was introduced in 1992 by Daryl Wing Su, okay, and others. So we just wanted to allow you to know what theory and framework that we will be utilizing as we take you through this workshop. So as far as key concepts of this theory, they include counselor self-awareness, client worldview, counseling relationship, as well as counseling and advocacy interventions. All of these concepts are very important as we help immigrant students and their families, this population. It's important for us to be self-aware, for us to have the worldview of the immigrant student population that we are serving, to make sure that we ensure that relationship with our students and their families, to ensure that we are making sure we are understanding what the issues and challenges so that we can best serve them, and advocating for them in ways that we can to help ensure their success.
All right. Thank you, Lakeisha. I appreciate that. I want everyone to take a 3-minute break. I know you've just uh, been bombarded with a lot of information. So I want you to pause the video right here, take a break, get some water, stretch, and then we'll come back for the second half. Thank you. All right, and we're back. Thank you, Lakeisha, again for your introduction to the key concepts. Please keep in mind that these concepts will be reiterated and reintegrated throughout the presentation. So please make sure to take notes in the handouts that you were given, and we're gonna jump right into the next piece. All right. Now, this is the systemic barriers faced by refugee students and their families. In order to introduce this topic, I'm going to paint a picture like I did in the previous activity. So imagine a maze, but instead of walls, it's made of things like language differences, educational inequalities, or even just the fear of being deported. It's not just one big obstacle, but a whole network of them. And it can make even the simplest task feel impossible. As counselors, we need to understand these barriers to truly understand the challenges immigrant refugee students face, and work towards building a more inclusive society. In this section, we aim to pull back the curtain on two key barriers to equip practitioners with the knowledge of commonly faced obstacles that these clients and their families experience. There's the maze, so you don't have to imagine it. It's right there. All righty. Barrier one, academic success and social integration of school-age refugee students. Refugee students face barriers due to interrupted education, language barriers, poverty, and trauma from forced immigration. This truth adversely affects their ability to excel in the classroom significantly. In countries like Canada and the US, refugee students encounter issues such as inappropriate grade placements and teachers' low expectations. When you are thrust into a different system of education, it can be challenging for students and teachers alike to be able to place you in the correct educational bracket, since uh, our academic standards are different countrywide. Emotional trauma from violence and loss complicates refugee students' adjustment and learning. If you're leaving from a war-torn country like Ukraine, harkening back to our initial activity with Anya, she may have lost some family members on the way to the US. That is a very real reality for our immigrant students. And we, as counselors, need to be sensitive to these topics and learn as much as we can so that we can service our community better. Mismatched parental engagement strategies and communication breakdowns create additional challenge at home. If our parents don't know how to, assimilate themselves, and they don't know, the structures and systems of their new country, it can be difficult to steer the child in a productive and a productive pathway for their education. And inappropriate grade placement and English language based placement hinders refugee students. Their academic progress is hindered because they require more support. If you're teaching a subject in a different language than their native tongue, and they have no experience with it outside of maybe social media or their peers, it can be hard to grasp that reality and apply that to their education. Think of it like a fish going into a different pond. They've never been there before, but they have to swim. That's the only thing for them to do. And that's what it's like for these immigrant students. Some counseling takeaways: address trauma and emotional well-being. It's important for us as counselors to provide a safe space for refugee students to process their trauma and emotional struggles. Offering therapeutic support to help them cope with loss, violence, and displacement. Developing resilience building strategies. Counselors should work on strengthening students' resilience, helping them build coping mechanisms to manage stress and trauma from past experiences. As counselors, we have a duty to equip our clients with the ability to arm themselves when we aren't there. Um, that support is key for the client-centered approach of wellness. And that brings us to our next point: promoting self-esteem and motivation. Encouraging positive self-identity and boost confidence by focusing on strengths, with counteract the impact of low expectations and academic struggles. When these students enter into a new area, um, I find it in American culture, we often do not expect the best out of our refugee students. And that can be detrimental to a student like Anya, who was excelling in Ukraine, but now, because of the language barriers and the forced evacuation, as long with post-traumatic stress disorder, you know, she still wants to keep up that aptitude of being a top student. And you know, us as counselors, we need to also empower our students to continue their strength in their learning. I mean, if they were doing good before, we should encourage them to continue to do well and fight back against the challenges that they face. Um, facilitate cultural sensitivity counseling. Adapt counseling approaches to be culturally responsive, ensuring that the unique needs of refugee students are met in a manner that respects their cultural context. Get out, learn, um, talk to your clients, and ask them what traditions that they have. Um, Maybe you can replicate some of these uh, traditions to make them open up more. Uh, the best approach is the nonlinear approach. When these situations present themselves, we need to make sure that we are keeping an open mind and making sure that our avenues, we exhaust every avenue of possibility. Support family engagement through counseling. We help bridge the gap between home and school by offering guidance to refugee families on how to engage with their children's education, ensuring cultural and language barriers are addressed. When we are counseling these students, we want obviously we want the parents to be involved. Um, in order for these students to increase their educational aptitude, it is better to have a holistic approach, uh, and having everyone on the same page in order for the student to thrive in their unusual setting. It can be hard, and it can be even worse when you don't have parents who are active in their children's lives. All right. Another barrier is assimilation in education. Assimilation is a key barrier for immigrant students in the process of assimilation, which involves adopting the customs, values, and way of life of the host culture. For refugee students, this is especially challenging due to the immediate shift in cultural norms. Um, you know, Parental expectations. Many immigrants want their children to uphold traditions and values of their native country, sometimes creating a conflict with the desire for their children to integrate into American society, which, from Anya's perspective, she's leaving behind her entire life. And, maybe a vast majority of her family, her possessions, her belongings was destroyed in the war. And in order to keep that culture alive, it is important that counselors emphasize that you can keep your culture alive without, fully assimilating into American society. It is paramount that we protect our clients' cultural identity while emphasizing that it is okay for them to reach out and be a part of their school. It's the only way that they're going to learn to interact with other students. Which brings us to our next point, integrating in social networks. For immigrant students to build connections outside of their cultural enclaves, it is essential for them to interact with students from diverse backgrounds. You know, encourage our clients to hang out with their peers, maybe pick up a few local lingo, um, allow them to express themselves in a setting where it is organic and it's not controlled, and you know guide them through that process. um, Downward assimilation, parents can often perceive assimilation as a threat to their children's ethnic identity, where their children lose their cultural heritage and adopt negative aspects of the whole society. This is increasingly present in refugee homes, where one of the many reasons for displacement may stem from cultural genocide. Um, Unfortunately, our school systems are very, very different. We are living at a time where it is a hot button issue to be considered an immigrant in American society. Um, uh, Not a lot of these children are very uh, forgiving to different cultures and different ways of life. And us as counselors, we have to uh, emphasize and strengthen our clients to where they feel good in their own culture and can still practice that culture regardless of those who wish to shut them out of it. It is important that we empower them and give them the tools to fight against the oppressions that we don't see. Um, and you know, and that creates a more inclusive environment. A counseling takeaway is understand the spectrum. Assimilation is a complex process. It's not about erasing identity, but finding a balance between embracing the new culture and preserving the heritage that they already have. Bridge the gap. Encourage open communication between students and parents about the challenges and opportunities of assimilation. Um, you know, Join clubs. Make uh, make friends, do activities. Make sure that you are locked into your community and find out the different ways that uh, they can indulge in it. Promote connections, support students in building connections with peers from diverse backgrounds, the school programs, and community events, just like I mentioned. Address the fear. Help parents understand that assimilation does not mean losing their cultural identity, but focus on the positive aspects of integration. Scholarships, uh, you know, other individuals like organizations like the NAACP, the Hispanic Academic Coalition, things of that nature. Empower students to help them develop a sense of agency and pride in their bicultural identity. Embrace both their heritage and their new home. Counseling should be a safe space for all immigrant students and families to discuss their experiences and navigate the complexities of assimilation. And I'll leave you with this. Remember, navigating these obstacles requires a multifaceted approach. We must not only acknowledge the challenges, but also equip ourselves with the knowledge and resources to empower immigrant refugee clients and their families. This includes fostering cultural competency, advocating for systemic change, and building bridges of understanding within our communities. It is only by working together that we can create a more welcoming and supportive environment for all.
Thank you, Avery. Very well said. I'm going to now touch on some current immigration policy challenges that our students and their families have to contend with. So, as far as the laws that have been in place, the Immigration and Nationality Act, also known as INA, it was enacted back in 1952 and contains many provisions of immigration law. So that law has been around for quite some time, pertaining to immigration. More recently, there was an executive order 14165, referred to as securing our borders, issued by the current administration, by President Donald J. Trump. And so with that, having gone over some of the laws in the past and most recently, um, as we have been hearing, that it's important for us to make sure we have a safe space for our immigrant students and their families, because not only are they trying to assimilate into a new culture, trying to learn the language, all these things, but they're also having to contend with challenges. So some of the challenges include increasing efforts to deport people who are living in the United States, sending additional military forces to the border, cutting federal funds for certain cities and states if they don't help with federal deportation efforts, and suspending asylum applications for people seeking to live in the United States. So these are real challenges for our students and their families. So it's very important, as Avery and Jillian have mentioned, that we make sure that we provide support, that we help, we encourage our students in every way that we can. We're here as a safe place for them with everything that they have to contend with. So, as far as the data on immigrants in the United States, from about 1850 to 2023, the data shows that there are 2,245,000 immigrants back in 1850, compared to now, or in the 1970, it was an increase, so about 9,169,000. So for right now, we have over 47 million immigrants, about 14.3 of percent of the total population, as of 2023. So there has been an increase in immigrant population. As I believe Jillian mentioned, those immigrant populations, it varies in terms of different statuses. And about half of all the immigrants from 1965 to about 2023 are from Latin America. So it's helpful for us to know the immigration population. These could very well be clients, that we see from different countries. So it's helpful for us to know so that we can make sure that we do the proper research and that we ensure our understanding so we can best serve our clients. So an estimated 649,000 children ages 5 to 17, representing about 30% of all foreign-born children, had been in the United States for 3 years or less, as of the Census Bureau's 2021 American Community Survey. While the highest numbers could be found in traditional immigrant destinations such as California, Florida, and New York, recent arrivals made up particularly large shares of all immigrant children in Alaska, Delaware, and West Virginia. So if we're living in any of these states, then we want to make sure that we have as much knowledge and awareness so that we can make sure that we are serving our immigrant student population. They need us.
All right, so thank you for that, Lakeisha. I do want to make a note for all of the counselors taking this training, right? So while the training primarily focuses on immigrants who are refugees or seeking asylum, much of the content that we've discussed already and that we're going to discuss is also relevant to other immigrant groups, including those with varying documented stati, right? So green card holders, naturalized citizens, temporary visa holders, as well as those who are undocumented. All counselors working with any immigrant population can expect to gain some practical and applicable insights from this training. So just because we're focusing on those who are seeking asylum or refugees doesn't mean that counselors with other immigrant populations can't also benefit. So just make sure that you're just taking what applies to you and your clientele as we go through this training, right? So providing mental health care for refugees and asylum seekers should be done in partnership with other social, cultural, and family supports around the individual. Such an approach highlights the influence of environment on mental well-being. Clinicians can serve as advocates by linking refugees with psychosocial support to assist with housing, legal aid, access to healthcare, education, and employment. Right? So encouraging immigrant family involvement, we can encourage immigrant students and their families to participate in family-oriented events hosted by schools, faith-based organizations, as well as local businesses. We can promote multilingual workshops that educate immigrant families on civic engagement, education, and employment in their communities. We can provide immigrant families with information about cultural exchange events in their communities to promote inclusion and understanding and opportunities to network. We can suggest to immigrant families that they could benefit from volunteer opportunities that are tailored to diverse skill sets. All right, and then strategies for culturally sensitive outreach. We can definitely inform immigrant families about opportunities to meet cultural leaders and trusted community figures. We can also support immigrant families' attendance to tailored support groups for parents, youths, and elders from various cultural backgrounds. Next slide, please. All right, so there are several resources available that offer assistance with legal issues, employment, food, housing, healthcare, emergencies, mental health, and citizenship. Some federal programs have eligibility requirements, but many state and community organizations offer assistance regardless of status. Counselors should encourage families to seek legal counsel, to understand services and benefits available to them. So some examples of legal assistance are the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, which provides information on immigration benefits, citizenship, and legal resources. The Department of Justice is an executive office for immigration review that offers legal orientation programs and a list of pro bono legal service providers. And then the American Bar Association provides resources and referrals as well for legal assistance, including immigration matters. All right. So regarding employment support, there's the Department of Labor, which offers programs like the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act to help immigrants access employment training and support services. There's also the Employment Authorization Document, which immigrants can apply for EAD through USCIS to work legally in the United States. All right, so some food assistance programs. SNAP is also popularly referred to as food stamps, provides food purchasing assistance, and eligibility varies based on their immigrant status. All right, there's also the Women, Infants, and Children program, also referred to as WIC. It offers nutrition assistance to low-income pregnant women, new mothers, and young children, including eligible immigrants. There's the National School Lunch Program, which ensures free or reduced price lunches for eligible children in schools. Next slide. All All right, so as far as housing assistance goes, we have the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which provides information on public housing and rental assistance programs. Eligibility may vary based on immigrant status. There's the housing counseling agencies, HUD-approved agencies, which offer guidance on housing options and rights. As far as medical assistance goes, there's Medicaid and Children's Health Insurance Program, also referred to as CHIP, which offers health coverage to eligible low-income individuals and children. Some states provide coverage to lawfully residing immigrant children and pregnant women without a waiting period. All right, there's federally qualified health centers, which provide primary care services to all individuals, regardless of immigration status, often on a sliding fee scale. And then there's emergency assistance. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, also referred to as FEMA, offers disaster relief and emergency assistance. There's certain programs that are available regardless of immigration status. And then there's state and local emergency services. Many states and municipalities provide emergency assistance that are accessible to immigrants. All right, next slide. So there's a few organizations that offer assistance to immigrants, including undocumented immigrants. All right, so there's the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. There's community mental health centers. And then just another example is also the National Alliance on Mental Illness, also referred to as NAMI. All right, these organizations provide resources and support for immigrants, refugees, and first-generation Americans facing mental health challenges, including culturally competent care and information on legal rights and financial assistance. As far as citizenship assistance goes, the USCIS Citizenship Resource Center provides materials and resources to help individuals understand the naturalization process. The New Americans Campaign offers free or low-cost assistance to legal permanent residents seeking to become U.S. citizens. And then the Office of Refugee Resettlement supports refugees and other eligible populations with resources towards self-sufficiency, including citizenship assistance. All right. There's also some additional resources. All right. So there's the Systematic Alien Verification for Entitlements program. It's used by federal, state, and local agencies to verify immigration status. There's the United States Refugee Admissions Program, which provides resettlement assistance to refugees, including services related to housing, employment, and healthcare. There's also nonprofit organizations out there like the U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants and the Arab Community Center for Economic and Social Services, as an example, that offer various services to immigrants, including legal aid, employment support, and social services. I will say that for any counselors working with undocumented immigrants, it is imperative that you are not oblivious to the fear that your clients have that exists regarding your clients attending public spaces. All right. It is a very real and justified fear of deportation and separation from loved ones. So be open to the idea of advocating for them by connecting them with organizations that are willing to possibly bring services and resources to them where they feel safe. But always inform your clients, okay, of their options and get their consent before making these requests on their behalf. You may have to dig a little deeper in their community to find resources that won't jeopardize them and aren't affiliated with the government. All right. And please, please, please always remember to research resources before making referrals. You need to be aware of federal agencies that will not support them, but rather detain and deport them because of their unlawful entry into the country. We want to make sure that we're not responsible for any re-traumatization of our clients. All right, so moving on to the ethical considerations. It's important to remember that building trust and rapport with immigrant students is essential for creating a supportive and inclusive counseling environment. Understanding cultural stigma around mental health is crucial, as some students and families may be hesitant to seek help due to fear, shame, or misconceptions about counseling. Also, addressing language barriers and providing accessible resources ensures that students and their families can fully engage in the support available to them, fostering better communication, trust, and overall well-being. All right. So as we go through, these are just a few. This is not a conclusive list. All right. I feel like a lot of these codes refer to what we need to be doing with our clients. But just to give you an idea of a few, the American Mental Health Counselors Association Code of Ethics talks about being culturally responsive in our counseling approaches, as well as being ethical in our decision making, ensuring the best interests of our immigrant students. The American Counseling Association Code of Ethics talks about primary responsibility, being respectful of their privacy, dealing with multicultural issues, and diversity in assessment, being aware of the cultural factors that affect the results that we get from our assessment tools, right? You definitely want to calculate those as you're assessing your clients so that we're not misdiagnosing anyone based off of simple differences in culture, right? So that's a part of being multiculturally competent, all right? Counselors continuously developing awareness of our own biases and engaging in ongoing learning about diverse populations. Next slide, please. All right. So here's some things that we can do to make sure that we are continuing advocacy and professional development. You want to make sure that we're building trust and rapport with our clients as well as their families, all right? So you can create a safe and non-judgmental space by actively listening, validating their experiences, and consistently showing cultural humility, all right? Their experience is their experience. And I mean, unless you've been in their shoes, but even if you've come from a similar background yourself as a counselor, you're not them. So make sure that you take their experience as their truth and work with that, right? So the code that's aligned with that comes from the ACA. It's an explanation of limitations. At initiation and throughout the counseling process, counselors inform clients of the limitations of confidentiality and seek to identify situations in which confidentiality must be breached. So this is very important. We want to make sure that our clients understand when we would be mandated reporters to give them perfect control of their right to withhold information or choose carefully what they want to share. All right, next slide, please. All right, we want to understand cultural stigma around mental health. Okay, we can initiate open conversations about mental health in ways that respect their cultural beliefs. Make sure that we're avoiding imposing Western beliefs of illness or healing, because other cultures definitely view illness and healing in different manners. Okay. It's not less than Western views, it's just different. So we need to work with what our client's belief system is. All right. We definitely want to make sure that we're using psychoeducation that's tailored with cultural context and normalizing help-seeking behavior within the student's worldview. This is a part of being culturally sensitive while diagnosing and also developing cultural sensitivity. All right. And then you want to make sure that we have a commitment to the public. Okay. So being aware of the prevailing community and cultural values and the impact of professional standards on their community. All right. Next slide, please. All right, we can address language barriers by offering translated materials, providing interpretation services, and try to avoid using family members, especially their children, as interpreters during therapy, right? Because just like, in our culture or varying cultures, kids don't need to hear everything that their parents are saying. So the children don't necessarily need to be the interpreter. So soliciting hired interpreters to maintain objective opinions in therapy is always best for the therapeutic relationship. All right. So you want to make sure that we're protecting the client's privacy, especially when using interpreters, and using simple and clear language when interpreters are unavailable. All right. Be as clear as possible and check for understanding often. Reiterate, repeat, rephrase however you need to. All right. So you want to make sure that you're seeking support or training when language barriers exist. Okay. Next slide. We can provide accessible resources. So maintaining a vetted and updated list of community resources, legal aid, housing, medical, some language classes, some of these resources that we discussed prior in the training, right, that are tailored to refugee or asylum seeking populations. We want to help families navigate complex systems, right, immigration, school, healthcare, etc. Making appropriate referrals and explaining processes clearly. All right, this is a part of being a useful and effective advocate. All right, and you want to understand how related professions complement their work or our work and make full use of other professional, technical, and administrative resources. So work with the community to get your clients the best help that they possibly can for their situation. All right, next slide. All right, before we jump into this activity, I just want to let you know that those actions that were just mentioned, they not only reflect ethical standards from the ACA and AMHCA Code of Ethics, but it also ensures that counselors are supporting immigrant students in a culturally sensitive, empowering, and legally sound manner, strengthening the therapeutic alliance and improving student outcomes. And everything that we do to be an advocate for our clients doesn't necessarily have to be so formal, like research and professional development. You can also have fun with it. You can research some multicultural events in your area. Just mingle with people from other cultures. As you meet people who are from different backgrounds than you, and you start to learn some of their personal stories, you can definitely become familiar with the nuances of other cultures as people are sharing their experiences, happy or sad, that they've had with family and loved ones from their home before the United States. So it definitely doesn't have to be so serious. You always want to take it seriously, but you can definitely have fun while also learning about various backgrounds so that you can be more effective when facing your clients. All right, now I'll hand it over to Avery.
Thank you very much, Ms. Flagler. I want all of us to pause for 2 minutes, take a break, get some water, think about all the resources that you were just told, because in this activity, we will go over those resources and, well, I won't explain it right now, but just take a break and then we'll regroup. And we're back. All right. Thank you all. I hope you did take that break. And we're just going to jump right into it. So, the second and final activity is the Immigrant Student Toolkit activity. In this exercise, you will recall your thoughts, feelings, and emotions from the previous activity. Now it is time to develop a toolkit for Anya to use. Think critically about the resources and support systems needed for immigrant students to thrive in their new environment. This toolkit should include resources, support systems, and strategies that will help a student navigate the challenges of acculturation and succeed academically and socially. This toolkit will be more in the form of a flow chart. There are no right or wrong answers. Just if you need to pause the video and go back to some of the resources that Ms. Flagler had presented to us, then you can create that flow chart. And in just a moment, I will give you some time to complete it, and then we will look at an example of what it will look like. So just take a moment, pause the video, and evaluate. And we're back. All right. So I want to show you what it would look like if you had completed this activity in front of your peers. So you see Anya here, and these subcategories: emotional well-being, practical resources, academic support, and social integration. You'll have, under social integration, you'll have cultural clubs, peer mentoring, community events, etc. Under academic support, you would have tutoring, language classes and academic counseling, those resources would be under that specific subcategory. Then you would have under practical resources, the translation services, transportation, housing assistance, those would be under that particular subcategory. And finally, the emotional well-being subcategory, well, mental health services such as you and I, support groups with cultural sensitivity, those groups that we talked about earlier, and NAACP and the Hispanic Academic Association. Those groups will be more tailored to helping out individually. And they may know more than you or I, people who are not in the specific lens of their cultural identity. But this is just what it would look like. And I hope that whatever your flow chart looked like, it looks similar to this. And we're going to move on. Thank you. Now it's time to discuss your takeaways. What did you think? Amongst yourselves, amongst your peers.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Avery. And thank you that we had that discussion of the takeaways from all that was shared. Thank you both, Avery and Jillian. Excuse me. Now we're going to give you an opportunity, and we hope that you'll take the time, excuse me, to complete the post-workshop evaluation, giving us your feedback and letting us know what it is that you gleaned from this workshop that we wanted to ensure that we put together for you to help you when dealing with the immigrant students population and their families. So please go ahead and use your devices and access the link on the screen and go ahead and complete that evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you guys for participating. Feel free to go back to the presentation as needed, further discuss, further come up with ideas, and just be the best resource that you can be for your clients.
I hope you filled out their handout, that beautiful, beautiful handout. Those margins were there for you to fill it out. So I hope you did.
Okay, thank you.